Hello, welcome and thank you for visiting the Open Leadership channel. My name is Michael Breeze and on this video I'll explain the power and the benefits of running more effective meetings. Now I hope you find this video useful and do stay till the end to find out how you can access more free resources. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, you risk missing out on the complete set of skills and knowledge and insights from the Open Leadership approach that I'm giving away here free on this channel. Also, it would be enormously helpful to me if you could subscribe. It makes it much easier for me to carry on making free content for people who want it or need it. So if you can, it would be a great favour if you could. Thank you. Now, let me start by asking a broader question than the video title does. In general, are meetings a great way of getting things done or a waste of time? Answer: yes. Meetings are a great way of getting things done, or if they're not that, then they can be and are a massive, recurring, awful and soul-destroying waste of time. Let me make these two assertions right up front. One, meetings are one of the most powerful ways to enhance or damage your impact as a leader, as well as your credibility and your reputation. And two, effectiveness of meetings is a major factor in overall organisational effectiveness and organisational results. Now, if those two assertions seem overstated to you, watch this video and understand why this is so, and then watch the rest of this mini-series on meeting effectiveness to see how you can make sure that your meetings always enhance your impact and your reputation, and they always improve your team's effectiveness and their team's results. Now, to support these bold assertions a little further, let me share with you some of my experience in this area. When my consulting teams and I have worked with past clients, it's quite common for one of the biggest impacts that we have to have been helping them run more effective meetings. That's quite something when you consider that those programs delivered in many cases benefits in the millions of pounds or dollars. But the more effective meetings were a major factor in delivering these benefits promptly and completely. The way that the change program was run, massively impacted by the effectiveness of the meetings, was a key to achieving significant results improvements for the client's organizations. But also, and critically important, the legacy of leaving the client able to always run better meetings with better outcomes lasts well past the program of change, the timeline of the program of change. And when I meet or talk to past clients, sometimes years after our work together, meeting effectiveness is one of the things that they frequently quote as being so powerful for them and their organization's development. Done well, meetings can be a source of solutions to seemingly unsolvable problems, brilliant ideas, powerfully effective plans of action, sharpened accountability and engagement of your teams, great teamwork and team development, improved morale, positive culture change. But done badly, meetings can produce dangerously poor plans. They can produce a lack of effective actions of any sort. They produce failure to solve recurring problems, narrow and constrained thinking, unresolved conflict in teams, division, countless hours of wasted time, truly countless hours, and frustration for all involved. Considering the amount of time that most managers and leaders spend in meetings, it's a constant surprise to me how little effort is spent on improving meeting effectiveness in so many organizations. It's not as though the prize is a small one. In the next couple of videos, I'll share some of the numbers, some of the data that demonstrates the scale of benefits, and they will truly amaze you. The quality of the meetings that leaders run can be a powerful indicator of their overall leadership capability. And commonly, new leaders fall into two main types of traps when they're planning or managing meetings. The first trap is that they try to be the fully in charge boss. They use the meetings to tell everyone what they think and what they want done, an opportunity to be directive. I call this the bluster trap. Two, the second trap that people fall into is that they fail to think through and plan enough for their meetings, and for the lack of well thought through meeting processes and other factors around that, they lose control of the meeting. They fail to get any useful output, and they massively damage their reputation as a leader in the room. And I call this one the fluster trap. Now, occasionally you do see, or I've witnessed, a combination of both these two traps in the same meeting, and I can tell you, seeing bluster and fluster in the room is not a pretty sight. Now, as consultants, and when we're working with clients, when we get leaders to really think about their organization's meeting effectiveness, to reflect on it a little bit more carefully, they usually report two main types of desires pretty early on in the conversation. They usually identify, one, they'd like their organization to spend less time in meetings, and two, they'd like their meetings to produce better outcomes with real results. Fair enough, but when we dig a little deeper and we actually assess their meeting effectiveness with them, they usually agree in the end there actually are three high-level issues and a lot more elements to the problems with meetings that they've not thought through. Let me share some of that detail now to make that clearer. Under the time used heading, how to spend less time in meetings, that we find broadly three areas of focus, three areas of concern from leaders that we're working with. Firstly, that the meetings, the average meeting in there is just too long, just too much time spent in an individual meeting. Secondly, that meetings are just too frequent, there's too many of them. And thirdly, that often meetings have too many unnecessary people in the meeting. So they're using far too much of the organization's resource time. Under the second heading of poor outcomes, we find these areas of work. The first one is a lack of clear purpose for the meeting or individual agenda items in the meeting. So how are you going to get a good outcome if you're not even clear what you want out of it? And that is incredibly common. Secondly, poor meeting processes that actually fail to deliver the planned outputs from them. So there may have been clarity about objectives or purpose, but they didn't have a good process to get there, and so they fail. Or sometimes a factor within that is that they just happen to have the right data or knowledge in the room to make a plan or come to a decision. So they might have a process, but the data isn't in the room, and again, they can't get the output they want, and the meeting time has been wasted. Fourthly, often poorly worked plans, actually stuff that's been worked in the meeting, that the process for building a plan has led to failure in execution. So a poor plan comes out and actually it doesn't resolve the problem, it doesn't deliver the results that it was intended to. A fifth, a lack of clear accountability for action leads to failure in execution. This is where, although there might be a fairly workable plan, there wasn't absolute clarity about who was going to do what by when, and consequently things didn't get done and the plan again fails. And lastly, clients often start to see that bad behavior in their meetings is undermining group efforts to deliver good outputs. Now, this last one opens the discussion for a third category, often forgotten, a heading for areas of concern in meeting effectiveness. Under this third heading, I'm going to call it morale and teamwork for these purposes, but it gets called many things by clients as they start to see it. These leaders often come to see that they have a handful of further matters to consider as a consequence of their meeting effectiveness or lack of meeting effectiveness. Poor leadership in the room, poor leadership of the meeting is exhibited, and this is a major negative impact on engagement and morale. There is few things more undermining of those things for team members to sit and watch their leaders behave badly or appear incompetent and not competent enough to manage the meeting to solve the problems they're working on. Secondly, that the poor working processes that we've talked about earlier create confusion and a sense of hopelessness. If you come to solve a problem and the process is broken and you can't get to a good answer, it's a horrible feeling for people. They come away genuinely confused and feeling, well, it's hopeless, we can't solve this problem. Thirdly, the bad behavior that we talked about a moment ago, from everything from personal agendas, people coming in with a hidden agenda of their own, or just out and out bullying, and a whole bunch of other behaviours in between can crush team morale and crush team development and togetherness. And fourthly, perhaps group politics can dominate the meeting. Perhaps there are things going on in the organisation, restructuring, reorganisation, and people are busily more focused on how they can come out of that reorganisation better for themselves. And that problem, if you're not dealing with it properly, can dominate a meeting and disrupt it completely, again giving bad outputs and again giving poor morale and poor engagement of your people. Now, these lists of issues and areas of focus, they're not exhaustive, but they're pretty typical of what I've seen in any number of organisations around the world. And I'm going to guess that you don't want your meetings to be viewed or talked about in these ways. The challenge then is to find an approach which firstly, reduces the time spent, while secondly, producing better outcomes, and at the same time, thirdly, improves morale and teamwork. Daunting? Well, the good news is that some pretty straightforward and clear steps and the application of the Learn, Plan, Act model, your growth engine from the last 2 videos in this series, will give you all of this, provided you're willing to put a little work in. And the rest of this video mini-series on meeting effectiveness will show you how to do this and will set you up for success. In the next video, we'll look at how to plan effective meetings. Before later in the series, we grasp how to lead them in the room, as it were. And finally, of course, how to make sure that we learn from meeting effectiveness efforts and so that we keep improving. Now, to repeat what I say in lots of these videos, if you're impatient or you need to access the content from the later videos now and they're not yet available at the time of viewing this one, you can find a complete overview of the open leadership approach in my book, Stepping Up: How to Be Great in Your First or Next Leadership Role. And chapter 5 of that book covers all aspects of effective meetings. But remember, I am releasing these videos weekly, and they'll remain free of charge if you can wait. So the rest of this will be over the next couple of weeks if you're reading this or viewing this, in the week that I released it. So hopefully you can see the enormous importance of effective meetings and how they can benefit you, your team, and your organization. I hope this video was useful and interesting. Let me know your thoughts and comments below. And also, please remember to subscribe to the channel and to hit the reminder bell to receive notifications when new videos drop in each week. That way you will access the whole of the Open Leadership Approach free of charge as I release more videos, as I say. Now you can get access to more free resources, as I said at the start of the video, at openleadershipbase.com. That's openleadershipbase.com. And that includes excerpts from my book and other resources. Now you can also, at that website, or through that website, join the Open Leadership Base forum and get involved in conversations with me and other leaders, share your experiences, ask questions, as well as letting me know your thoughts about content you'd like to see either there on the website or here on this channel. Now, if you're, as I said earlier, if you're impatient for an overview of the Open Leadership Approach and don't want to wait for the full video versions to arrive as I produce them, you could buy my book. As I say, Stepping Up: How to Be Great in Your First or Next Leadership Role. It's available on Amazon. There is a link in the video description down below. But do remember, as I say, I will be giving all the content and more away free on this channel. So it just remains for me now to say thank you once more for visiting the Open Leadership channel, and I'll see you next time.